Hey guys, Bart coming to you from TST Industries in sunny Florida, bringing you another episode of TST Garage. In this episode, we will be showing you how to ditch the ugly OEM fender on a first generation Yamaha FZ-09 and replace it with our new low mount fender eliminator kit. This is one of our Elite-1 series kits. We developed it by popular demand. We've already launched a bunch of different options that mount the license plate and other equipment associated with that back here under the taillight. And after receiving a number of requests to go with a lower mount for a more tucked version of a fender eliminator, we've come up with it, and now we're going to show you how to install it. Now the first step of this process will be to remove the OEM fender. We did capture that process in a separate video that is a common chunk for a bunch of our different installations, and we encourage you to view that before proceeding with this installation. The link to that video will be provided in the upper portion of the screen here. And from this point forward, I will be just focusing on building this kit and putting it on the bike. So let's get rid of this. And now let's talk about these parts a little bit. This is your license plate mount. It gets placed here and screwed in place of the components that we will take off to make room for our hardware. Very simple, we'll get to that. Now the closeout piece will close the holes left behind by the removal of the fender, make your entire undertail look very pleasing, and seal up any of the holes left behind so that you don't catch any debris or water in your trunk. So we'll have to get this kit to look like this. To do that, we will start with closing out these holes. Those are in the closeout for the purpose of mounting our rear-mounted fender eliminators. It is not necessary to leave them open for this particular version. We have these black plastic plugs that just push in. They do offer a lot of resistance, so they will not vibrate out. Once we get them bottomed out, we will need to grab set of cutters and cut them flush to the top here. Otherwise, this will not rest flat against your undertail. All right, once we get them flush, we can proceed. I'm just going to make sure that they're still seated. And in fact, they are. Now you have this one hole in the center here that's provided there for routing wires if you choose to run wires from your rear-mounted license plate bracket. We're obviously not using the rear-mounted bracket, so we will close that out using the small countersunk screw that is provided and one of the nylock locking nuts. We will need a 4mm Allen and a 10mm box wrench. And we're just going to go ahead and tighten this all the way. And now we are ready to insert the rest of the hardware. As you can see here, one of my caps is still protruding out. I'm just going to press it against the surface here. Make sure it's fully bottomed out. Now it looks good, so we can proceed. We're left with these two screws and 4 washers and 4 nuts. The nuts go on the top side of the installation inside the bike along with these 2 washers. We're left with these 2. I'm gonna pre-install them in these countersunk holes and cap them off with these washers on top of the closeout. Now, when we go to install this, it's gonna be very cumbersome. And if you don't have a set of helping hands, a friend, a helper, whatever, I encourage you to use some painter's tape to hold these components in place while you get them inserted, and that will make the installation vastly easier. And once these components are in the bike, you peel this off and move forward. All right, so now we're ready to jump onto the bike and perform this installation. All right, so for you guys that actually watched the fender removal video prior to this video. Don't be put off by this taillight here. This is our integrated taillight. In the removal video, we had the OEM unit still on here. So this installation does not vary in any way with either one of the taillights installed. So let's identify the rearmost holes here on the undertail. There were 4 fasteners connecting the OEM fender to the bike. We will make use of the rearmost ones, the ones that protrude through and hold the taillight bracket to the bike. Now we've pre-configured this setup on our table, so we will just sneak it in under these components here. It'll be necessary to pry them down and fit our screws through. And once I got those guys seated in there, I'm going to jump up to the top and make sure that my taillight bracket fits on top of those screws that are coming through. Now I will grab one washer and one of the nuts left behind in our kit and thread that onto the screws that we just penetrated through this setup. Just going to get the thread started. Do that on both sides. And now that our setup is self-supporting, we can jump down to the bottom and remove the painter's tape. All right, and now we will use a 4mm Allen from the bottom to hold those screws down. And I'm going to use a 10mm socket from the top and get these guys down and snug. Now I'm not going to fully tighten just yet. I want to leave some adjustability in the system so that I can center my closeout. All right. Now I want to make sure that all these components fit back in place and are flush with all the other components around them and our closeout. And now we can replace the push pins that came out of this hole and this hole here. And at this point, we have these screws that came out of the back portion here that screwed through the black section of fairing into our taillight bracket. The reason why I'm putting all these screws in hand tight first is that I will be making sure everything's fitting together nicely before I tighten them down. That will ensure we don't have any nasty gaps in between our components and everything looks like it was put together by the factory. These make use of a 10mm socket. Again, hand tight, leaving some adjustability. Now, final adjustment here. So now that we have all the geometry lined up and we have no more gaps, I'm going to tighten up those top screws we put in and then jump down to the bottom and remove these push pins one more time to gain access to the undertail closeout screws. Tighten down on those and we'll be good to go. All right, and we'll place push fasteners one more time. This is the final time we'll be doing this. And now our closeout is in place and it's looking mighty sweet here. All right, so now we can focus on mounting our license plate bracket on this portion of the undertail here. We'll remove these 2 fasteners using a 4mm Allen key and place this bracket here. However, if you guys opted for one of our stealth license plate lights, it is recommended to route it first through the bracket and through the bodywork before mounting the bracket to the bike. So we will do that, and then we'll continue with the rest of the installation. What I've done here is already pre-configured this license plate light with bullet connectors. We do have a separate video showing you guys how to wire up this light. It comes with these nice splice connectors that are removable. They don't damage any of the wires. If you're interested in that, you could find that video on our website or on our YouTube channel. For the purpose of this video, we're going to keep it simple. I also want to stress that this is a separate kit. These are sold separately. If you wish to have a license plate light on your setup, you have to bundle them together. So the license plate light wire will go through the front triangle, out of the rear triangle, and then this is ready to go onto the bike. I'm just going to want to remove the two fasteners I just talked about. We will not be reusing these. The bracket system has hardware included with it. We're going to use two of these washers and two of these M5 screws. These will require a 3mm Allen key, and they will assemble in this configuration from the outside to the inside. All right, so now let's route our wire. The best routing I've found is under this component and this way into the tail section, up and over, and then plug it in or wire it in, however you're going to make the connection. So let's push this in all the way to the side, and then from the top, it's easiest if you use some sort of a pulling device. I have a spring puller for exhaust here. This will make it pretty easy, otherwise it gets pretty cumbersome. And now I have my wire routed all the way to the top, and I'll just let it flop for now and get my bracket in position. I'm going to assemble this onto the bike. Just get the threads started. I'm going to grab a 3mm Allen key. And as I near the bottom out, I'm going to pull this bracket towards me, towards the back of the bike, and get it bottomed out. Tighten down both sides. Now I want to note here that you don't want to over tighten this. You are preloading two pieces of plastic together that will provide ample pressure on the threads against vibratory removal. So if you do over tighten it, you will stress the plastic and likely cause it to fail over time. So now we are ready to install our license plate setup. You can either choose to take off the masking from the 3M high bond adhesive double side tape here and stick it to the back of the license plate like this and then install it. I typically skip this step because the pressure from the license plate actually holds our license plate light in place pretty good. If you want that extra peace of mind, you can go ahead and do that step. All right, now I'll just center my license plate and my license plate light and go to full tightness with these fasteners. And the rest of the procedure will consist of just wiring up the license plate light and replacing all the other components that we've taken off during the disassembly process. Like I said, this is a pre-configured license plate light for this bike. Your wiring may be a little bit different. Please watch our license plate light video for tips on how to do that. Just route the wire and then replace the components I've taken off. I'm gonna test the light. Everything looks good. Replace the seat, and then we're ready to go. All right, easy peasy. Couple minutes, couple really easy steps that you can follow yourself without the involvement of a shop, and you can produce these really nice results on your FZ-09. The rear hole left behind by the fender is closed out with this really nice CNC machined anodized aluminum closeout. Makes for a really nice finish. Your license plate is moved upward into the well here, and it's in a really nice cosmetic location while still being fully visible from the rear. And our license plate light provides ample lighting to illuminate the surface of your license plate. As an add-on, I always recommend going with our integrated tail light. Really changes the whole look of the tip of the tail here. It's not necessary. You can go with a different style of signaling system. We offer a couple different types, so check out our website, tstindustries.com. You'll see some nice different options there. I'm pretty much done here. I had a blast working on this bike. I always like working on the naked Yamaha bikes. They're really easy to work on, and they tear apart and go together really, really nicely. Hope you enjoyed this video. I hope to see you on tstindustries.com and check out our subsequent videos. Later.